This really was supposed to be something completely different. My initial plan for this portrait was to work with acrylic paint in multiple colors and layers. But sometimes you're just pulled in a totally different direction than what you had in mind. The flow takes you to other places. And that's what happened to me with this portrait. I set up everything to be ready for painting. My paper is taped to the left side of the board, so I have space at the right side to set up my paints and brushes as soon as I had created my sketch and was ready for the next stage. But that stage never came. But here I still thought that I would just create a sketch and then continue painting. So I'm just drawing the start of what the features will be, or maybe just the placement. You can see I'm just scribbling some lines where the eye sockets are, and the nose and the mouth. And I'm working with a pastel pencil. I usually like to sketch my faces with either a charcoal pencil or a pastel pencil. In this case, I didn't want to use a charcoal pencil because I didn't want the charcoal to mix with my paint and turn it gray. So that's why I chose a pastel pencil. And as you can see, they are great for sketches and for drawing because you can just wipe them out and blend them to make them softer and lighter. So this is a stage that I always love. It's so free. You can see that I'm just playing, I'm not being careful. I'm really just testing everything out, trying to get a feel for my portrait. Where do I want the eyes to go? Where do I want the lips to go? And it's all still very open and free. It doesn't have to be neat. I'm really just in a stage where I'm trying to get a feel of the placement of the features. Everything is still open. I don't have any expectations of what this face should look like. I'm working with a reference photo that I use often, but in such a free way that it's mainly just an inspiration for lights and darks, or sometimes the features or whatever. But I know that face and I can always deviate from it whenever I want. And that also gives me so much freedom. I can just play here. I can play with my lines, experiment with the shapes of the features. Nothing is decided yet. Everything can still change. And I try to draw very lightly. That's why I hold my pencil at the back. It helps me to draw very lightly and also to keep my lines very free and loose, because it's not that easy to control my movements. And that's really what I want, because I want my lines to be playful and spontaneous and with lots of movement in them. So you can also see that I leave many of these lines, even when they're on the cheeks and in the face. They will all just become part of the portrait, of the shadows, of the lights and darks. And I can lighten them if I want to, so it's not a problem at all. But here again, just adding some playful lines even on the cheek. And you can see that I'm really focusing on those features. Slowly, slowly I can see some of the face and the expression starting to show just a little bit. But I don't stay for very long at one spot. I try to keep moving over the whole portrait and build it up more uniformly. And then the start of the neck. And then I go back to the features, to the eyes. It doesn't have to be neat, it doesn't have to be pretty. I think what I'm looking for is more like a realness in the face. Not a likeness, not that it has to be a realistic face. More like a sincere or some truth in the expression. I focus mainly on the dark and light, what I see in the face, so the shapes of the shadows and the light parts. That's what creates the depth and the structure of the face. And then I just continue with the neck and those playful lines. I love that I'm able to blend out the pastel with my fingers and make those subtle transitions. So at this point I was already past the idea that I would continue with painting. This wasn't a sketch anymore. And I started to feel attached to this face. I felt I started to get a connection with this face. This person is looking at me. And I was just enjoying the freedom, the play with just one simple pastel pencil. And all the depth and interest that you can create with it. Blending out the pigment to create those subtle intermediate shadows. Those shadows, those are what really give more of that depth to the face. Starting to create more of those subtle shadows also there next to the chin. Shaping the lip a little bit. And my plan is to make the left side of this face darker than the right side. So the light is shining on the face from the right side. And I love that type of lighting because it creates so much interest. It's fun to draw. And now I'm playing a bit more with the hair. I'm not really sure yet at this point if it will be hair or maybe some kind of scarf or a headdress. It's still completely open. I'm just loving the person that I start to see here. Making the base of the nose a bit darker because it's in shadow. Sometimes it's a lot darker than what we think. So do experiment with that. Don't be afraid to make your shadows dark. So also the left side of the nose bridge is more in shadow. Just drawing very light scribbly lines to lay down some pigment to create my shadows. And then I want to lighten up the right side a little bit, and I use my kneaded eraser for that. So it's not because I'm not happy with those lines, I just want to lighten them up a little bit. Also the white of the right eyeball. This is a different type of eraser. It's called a Tombow Mono Zero eraser, and I use it very, very often. I love to use it because I can apply more pressure with it than when I'm using my kneaded eraser. So the kneaded eraser you can knead in any shape that you want, and then you can dab off the pigment. And the Tombow Mono Zero pencil eraser allows me to create more thinner like lines. So I use my erasers mostly to add more light to my drawing, not so much to change mistakes, although sometimes if necessary, but usually I use my erasers to soften up certain parts and to lighten them up, sometimes also to create more texture and interest. So this is my actual drawing pace. I haven't sped up the video, but I do skip ahead every now and then, otherwise this video would become really long. So here you can see that I'm already in a little bit further of a stage. I've already added more of those soft intermediate shadows to the face. And then I continue with the hair. I think here I decided to make it hair and not a scarf. So I'm playing with those little locks of hair. That's also always such a fun opportunity to play, to add texture and interest, movement. Adding more shadow. You can see that I vary the direction of my lines so that they're not all in the same direction, and then softening them up and blending it a little bit so that it becomes more of a shadow. But I don't want to lose all my lines. I do want to keep them a little bit visible also, because I just love texture. Always in my work. There are two main themes, I guess. I always focus on lights and darks, and on the shapes of lights and darks, and creating interest. And then also texture. Texture is something that always fascinates me, and I always want to play with texture. So I'm just adding more fun lines, adding more movement. Making the hair a bit darker there. You can really start to see the person here. And adding some more fun little lines just to create interest and some hint of maybe a little bit of shadow. You're so free to do so much if you have the courage. I love to work this way. I only have my little pencil. I don't have to think of anything. I'm completely in the zone. It's like a meditation. I'm in the here and now, and I'm just focusing on lights and darks, on texture, on the person that I see in front of me. And I forget everything else. And the fun of pastel is that it's so forgiving, so easy. As you can see, you can blend things out, soften them up, lighten them. You don't have to mix your colors, you don't have to wait for paint to dry, or you don't have to prepare anything. You can just start and play and forget everything and be completely in the zone. That's really what happened here. It started out as a sketch, and then all of a sudden I found myself just drawing a person. So at this stage I'm focusing more on all those little small details that can make such a difference. Just some of the last things that I want to change, deepen some shadows here and there, add some details. Make the forehead here also a little bit darker. Varying my movements also in the final stages. Those subtle shadows, those intermediate shadows, those are really your tool to shape the face as if you're molding it with clay. And still, even in this stage, I'm just feathering over the paper without any pressure, keeping it really light and just going over the lines multiple times if I want to make them darker. More shadow there in a corner of the eye and towards the nose bridge. The more you look at your reference, the more of those interesting shadows you'll see. Adding just some very last final changes, some final details, softening up that line there. Adding a bit more light for the philtrum. Those really are the final things that I look at. Just a few last details. Working with my Tombow eraser. And there she is. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and accompany me on this unexpected drawing journey. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below. And if you'd like to get more in-depth art project videos, check out my Patreon. The link is in the description box below. And then I'll see you in the next video.